Hello, my name is Ben,
And I'm Sammy.
and we are the hosts of the Too Vague podcast this week. How are you doing, Sammy?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well myself as well. Well.
That sounds great.
The word is going to be substance. And let me just start off by saying that we had some amazing vegan food before the show from a place called Substance Diner in Tucson. And we had a couple of vegan Sonoran dogs. So what were your thoughts on the vegan Sonoran dogs?
They were actually really good.
Yes.
I appreciate that they made it taste as close to meat.
It was very close.
Yes.
It was. The only thing that was missing for me was the grease. But other than that, it was the flavor was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think it was the toppings for me.
Yeah.
The beans and then those pickled onions.
Yeah. The pickled onions
Those
were
were
tasty.
really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had some vegan fries, which are fries fried in something.
Fried and not fat.
Okay. Because that is not vegan.
I've heard.
Okay.
Yes. I'm pretty sure. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. But that ranch, though.
That ranch, yeah. I'm not and you know what? And we've covered this historically on the show. I'm not a big ranch guy unless it's on salads. But that dipping sauce with the dill was pretty tasty. I mean, I wouldn't even call that ranch. I would just call that dill sauce. It was delicious.
It was like a creamy dill sauce.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was the best vegan ranch I've ever had. It had like spring onion in it. It was really good.
Mm-hmm. It was very good. But this show isn't about food.
It should be about ranch.
No, it's not about ranch. You didn't tell me you wanted to talk about the word ranch.
Well, next time.
Next time
That'll
we'll
be
talk
my
about
word.
Okay, ranch. This time we're going to discuss the word substance. So when you think of the word substance, what is the first thing you think of?
The first thing I think of is substance abuse, for
Okay.
sure. But then also after that would be like the substance of a person,
Okay.
or how someone is someone of substance. Like what makes somebody substantial, I guess.
Okay.
If it's for other people, if it's for themselves,
Right.
what is it?
Right.
Why?
What defines a person
Yeah,
is how you would think of substance.
right.
Well, the first thing I think of is New Order.
New
As
Order.
you know, I grew up in the 80s and I've got fond memories of England. One of the things that I did while I was in England is I bought New Order albums. We went to Virgin Records. I bought New Order Substance and New Order Technique. Have you ever been to England or out of the country at all?
Not technically, no. No, I've been to Hawaii, but I haven't actually been to a different country. Right.
Do you want to go to a different country at some point?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I want to go to Japan for sure.
Oh yeah. Right there with you.
I've also wanted to go to Africa,
Okay.
and Australia
All right. So you have plans to travel
one
at
day,
some point.
hopefully.
Okay. That was the first time I'd been out of the country, and it kind of opened my eyes to how traveling in that way is a lot of fun and a lot of interesting things to learn and see and people to meet. My brother and I, we wanted to go. I was really into roller coasters. Do you like roller coasters at all?
No.
No. Is it
Not at all.
Okay. Or any amusement park stuff? No.
I just don't like the feeling of wanting to vomit. It really turns my stomach, rides
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
I don't prefer rides at all. And
Okay.
then, I mean, in Arizona, as you know, there's not any like real amusement parks.
Right.
There are, the Pima County Fair or whatever it may be. But
Right.
I just feel
You
like
still
those
don't
rides,
like those either?
they were put together yesterday.
Right.
So they just seem really janky and unsafe. And I'll just skip that.
Okay.
I will skip that. But if we were to go to Disneyland, that's a whole other thing. I might ride a few different things there, but
Okay. Would you be opposed to roller coasters are completely out?
well,
Roller coasters
not
are
a
a little-
Disneyland, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
But not that crazy shit that like goes upside down. I'm good. I don't want to do that. I'm good.
Actually, around the time we went to London, I was in a club called the American Coaster Enthusiasts.
Oh.
We got a magazine, and every month. And a part of being a part of this club, we got to go to various amusement parks and things like that, and they'd shut down the place. And we went on a couple of those trips with other people who were roller coaster people, which was a lot of fun. But in the UK, we went to this place called Alton Towers. It was, I would say, like a third world Six Flags. It was kind of like, it wasn't quite a Six Flags level place. But now it's one of the top places you go to go on roller coasters. We were on this log flume ride, my brother and I, and we were being ignorant, stupid American kids, right? And we were splashing each other in the back, and there were two other kids up front. And then I just wind up really, really far back and get a whole bunch of water and splash my brother, and he ducks out of the way and hits, like, this big thing of water hits these kids in the back of the head. And the one turns around to me and goes, "You bastard!" And then we laughed all the way into the station.
I'm sure he was very mad at you.
He was very mad
for being
at
on
us.
a ride that's filled with water.
So you know a lot of 80s music, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, not as much as you, for
Right,
sure. But I mean, New Order, yes, for sure.
Do you know Joy Division?
I have. I've heard of them, yes.
Okay. Joy Division basically was New Order before it was New Order.
Okay, that makes sense.
Joy Division, I think, only had 2 albums. I think you probably heard of the song "Love Will Tear Us Apart." Mm-hmm. Again, that's Joy Division.
I see.
Ian Curtis was the singer of Joy Division, and then he committed suicide. Joy Division had the 2 albums, one in 79 and one in 80. And then when he committed suicide is when New Order formed around, with the same core people, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the tragedy of New Order, but at the same time, it's kind of like you can trace the timeline of how New Order basically changed their sound over the 80s too, and they're pretty revolutionary, I would say, as far as new wave music is concerned.
I would even go as far to say they are like the new wave. I mean, it's the synthesizers and the drum machines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people, I think, would correlate New Order with the song Blue Monday.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, would you say, one of the most popular songs?
I would say it was pretty popular. Before I even knew it was called Blue Monday, it was like the opening song for this music video show. It was an off-brand MTV that was on late at night, and they always played Blue Monday. But then when I started delivering pizzas, that's where I discovered New Order.
Right.
It's weird how you discover music in various ways, and I don't know if it's a lot different now than it was back when I was young.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. Even now, from when 10 years ago for me, how different it is for me now. It's
right. Oh yeah.
Wild.
Everything has changed with technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as when we would listen, I worked at a yogurt shop too, which is where I kind of got familiar with a lot of the new wave stuff. And then also Echo and the Bunnymen, which I think they were kind of friends with the New Order folks too, with Peter Hook and all them. But Echo and the Bunnymen's got to be it's like my favorite band pretty much ever. So are you familiar with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lips Like Sugar was probably their biggest hit, but Killing Moon and all those.
Killing Moon is my favorite.
Yeah.
For sure. For New Order, right. I would say Bizarre Love Triangle.
Oh yeah, that's another classic one.
Very, very upbeat and fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too. It's like a lot of their music. If you listen to the lyrics, it's not as upbeat and fun as the music itself.
No, absolutely not. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think back in the day when I was hanging out with the goths and stuff, they would pepper in a lot of these, goth industrial nights, a lot of these new wave songs like that, because they did have some subject matter in the lyrics that would appeal to your goth folks back in the day. But
yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Smiths and Depeche Mode, The Cure, all that good stuff as well.
That's all in my wheelhouse when I was younger.
Yeah, Depeche Mode though.
I saw them in concert
Oh, very
at
nice.
the World Music Theater, and it was the Violator tour. And I went with a buddy of mine, and he was short and I was tall. So we were sitting, we had seats in the back, and he got up on his chair and was, because everyone was standing up, right?
Right.
And so he was trying to see over people, and then I was just standing up next to him. And then the security guard comes by and is like, taps him on the shoulder and tells him to get down. And then he gets down, and then he taps me on the shoulder and he tells me to get down. I look down and he's like, oh, sorry. So, yeah.
Rude.
Yeah, kind of rude, but it was his mistake. Substance.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about, you said substances as far as the making of a person. When you say the person of substance, right? What was that you were talking about? Because there's another definition of substance, which is just basically matter of uniform properties, right?
Right.
But how do you think of that?
Well, to me, the substance of a person is like, do they add value to the world or to themselves, to other people maybe?
Right.
They create something, whether it's like a material item or a thought or an emotion. They work hard and accomplish something, or they're either thinkers or doers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all those things put together, I think, really can make a person, who they are.
Right.
For sure.
So,
I mean, there's lots of people out there that for example, I would say maybe, I hate to like compare people together, but if you compare, maybe like a CEO to a homeless person, like who would have more substance,
right.
As a person.
Right. But I mean, the thing is, making those comparisons, I think that's one of the things where how do you measure the substance of a person, right?
It's almost like individuality. You know what I mean? Like you can measure your own substance.
Because this homeless person may possess a wisdom that this CEO does not.
Exactly.
Or it's a very subjective sort of thing, right? When things have substance, that's I think of usually like artistic sort of things that have substance, not necessarily people like you put it, but in a similar sort of an expression that has some meat on the bones, or something that it's not just something that was just thrown down and just, it's something that was given thought and something that has some meaning behind it, right? And that's kind of what you were talking about with people.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
What is your favorite liquid?
My favorite liquid.
I like to just spring out random questions every once
Mercury.
in a while.
I mean, the first thing that popped in my mind was elements being substance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Mercury.
I thought you were going to go with something like coffee.
Coffee is good too. Don't get me wrong, but
right.
that's, I would say, has less substance.
Right.
Well, what's your favorite liquid?
Let's see. I think a hot cup of tea.
A hot cup of Earl Grey.
Earl Grey is nice, but I mean, generally something that's a little spicy.
Oh, you like that chai?
I do like the tea. The tea.
Yes.
The chai tea, not the Tai Chi. Have you ever done Tai Chi?
No. No, I'm not that cool.
Are you sure?
But I have done the chai tea.
You have done the chai tea?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not too fond of it, actually.
No?
Neither
you don't
one.
like the spicy drinks?
The chai concentrate is just disgusting.
It is kind of sickeningly sweet.
It's too sweet.
Yeah. It definitely does have too much sweetness to it. I'm generally more a fan of brewing my own, but that gets a little tricky too when you try and brew your own and put milk on it.
Like homemade?
No. I'm just saying, like, when you make your own, like if you make it like a chai latte with a brewed instead.
Oh, I see. I thought I was just thinking of you like putting together your own spices and boiling everything together with your cinnamon and your cardamom and your black pepper.
Right. And then I could make spice references, like I could fold space, like in Dune.
Dune.
Yeah, I totally would do that.
Dune. I thought they were going to remake that movie, actually.
I thought they did.
Yeah,
I think it's, I mean, if it's not out already, it's definitely coming out soon.
Yes, the original, I grew up with that. My sister is a really big fan of stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah?
I kind of just grew up surrounding myself with Dune and Zelda and all that cool stuff.
So the movie Dune, you're
Mhm.
talking about the one that had Sting in it, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. And then also Patrick Stewart was in it. He was Gurney Halleck in that movie.
I actually haven't seen it as an adult.
Oh, really?
No, it's been a long time, but I did get HBO recently, and it is on HBO. I've been meaning to watch it.
I do have it around here, probably on DVD is my guess, not on Blu-ray, but I'm kind of interested in what they do with it. The universe is such an interesting universe that I really want to hear more about it, and I want to see more about it. I think it would be a good series to have as opposed to just do a movie on it.
Right.
But I don't know if that...
Yeah, no, I agree with that, actually, because the movie itself was so long.
Yeah.
And I feel like it might have lacked a little substance
Right, exactly.
than it had the potential for.
Right.
So to make it like maybe even just a short series or, a couple seasons, that would just be great.
So the concept of folding space seems like a drug-induced sort of thing that would be done to allow you to travel long distances and not feel like you've traveled long distances, right? And a lot of the technology in there is really unique and interesting sounding. You did mention movies and television shows and things having substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you watch on television right now or like Netflix or something that you think is an interesting show to you that has, a lot to it?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I just started a show yesterday.
Okay.
It's called Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Yes.
what
I'm pretty
is-
sure it's called Squid Game.
Okay.
Shit. But anyway, it's a Korean
Okay.
show. It has subtitles, but you can also turn it on the dubbed version.
Okay. It's not an anime or anything?
No, it's a real
life?
real life. And so the story, the main character is a father, and he is a avid gambler, and he's lost a lot of money.
Okay.
And he finds a way to make a lot of money.
Okay.
This man comes up to him and was like, hey, play this game with me, and I'll give you a shit ton of money if you win. And if you don't win, I'm going to slap you in the face. So they're playing this game. It's these two paper squares, and they're on the ground. You got to throw the paper square as hard as you can on the other one to make it flip over.
Right.
So he keeps trying and trying and trying, and he keeps losing. So he's just getting smacked up by this other random dude in a business suit. He gives him a card at the end of the game and is like, cool, if you want more money, call this number.
So he just didn't win.
Well, he won once.
Okay.
And he got a lot of money, and he got really money hungry.
He also got slapped a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a gambler. He has that drive
Right,
to get as much
right.
money as he can with doing the least amount of work possible.
Right.
So he was like, you want to play some more games? You want to win a shit ton of money? Call this number. He calls the number. Somebody says, here's your password. I'm going to come pick you up, and we're going to go play some games. And he's like,
Okay.
cool, awesome. He picks him up. He's like, what's a password? He's like, red light, green light. Gets in the van. Then he gets knocked out by some kind of gas.
Okay.
He wakes up, completely different clothes, in a huge room with 400 other people who are also there to play games.
Okay.
And it almost looks kind of like, a concentration camp, if you will. Everybody's on their own bunk bed.
Okay. Is this like a game of death? Kind of like...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, red light, green light, they're actually playing that game. And I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm sure you are.
Yeah, as a kid,
Right. It's
you
a
just
kid's
try
game.
and you try and move and then not be seen and stop.
Right.
Right.
So now all these other people, they tell them the rules like, hey, green light, you go, red light, you stop. And if you move, you get caught moving, you get eliminated.
Right.
And they're like, awesome. What they didn't know is elimination means death.
Right.
So,
Right.
Obviously the person calling the red light, green light was actually a giant child statue that had like robotic eyes
And
and would see that people are moving, and then guns out of the walls would just come and fucking shoot people.
okay, so this is the first episode?
This is the first episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Of Squid Games.
Squid Game.
Squid Game, singular.
Yes, singular.
Okay.
And I barely got through I got through some of the second episode, but basically there were whole rules for the game. If you, like the contestants, if you don't want to play,
Right.
you get eliminated.
And you get killed.
You get killed.
Right.
And if you want to win money, you're going to play the game. The other rule was, if everybody as a whole votes to completely leave the game, everyone. And it had to be, more people wanted to leave than stay, then, everyone could go free because they're basically hostages at this point.
Okay.
So everyone voted to leave, and then they drugged them back up and sent them off home. But then all these people in these games owed so much money. They were all in so much debt.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking, I think by the end, which they had to play 6 or 7 games, I think it was, to win all the money. But whoever survived the longest would get all the money.
Right.
And I think it was like 24 billion. Half of the people are mad that they have to leave. The other half are like, cool, we don't want to die. So I'm really excited to continue this show. I feel like it does have a lot of substance, and it has a lot of potential to go either really good or really bad. It definitely keeps me on the end of my chair, my seat.
Right.
And I highly suggest you watch it. It's on Netflix right now.
Okay. Is it a horror type of a thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a lot of gore and violence and blood, and
Right.
I'm really into that shit. So
Okay.
if you're not, then don't watch it.
I am not.
If you are not, then it's not for you.
Because
people get shot right in the face, and they show it.
Okay.
So
it's not a romantic comedy.
No, not at all.
Okay. There's only one show recently that I've watched that I think has substance.
Cooking with Paris Hilton.
No, but we talked about that. It's hilarious. Have you watched it?
I watched maybe like the first fucking 10 minutes of that shit, and I could not stand it. It was so goddamn cringy.
It's so hilarious. Just the fact that she's got a planner to plan what the room is going to look like after she's done. You know what I mean? It's like,
yep, I do.
She and it's like she's cooking with glitter all the time.
I couldn't get through it. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see what it was. Someone had suggested it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I'll give it a chance.
It's not for everyone.
Wasting my time.
It's not for everyone.
Wasting my time.
It's not that show.
Okay, what's the show?
I started watching Only Murders in the Building. It's Steve Martin Short. They've been doing a lot of stuff together recently. Martin.
I think for a long
Short.
time. I feel like I've seen them in a lot of things together.
Yeah, they did a couple of variety show things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's Steve Martin, who plays an actor who used to be on like a code, like an old school like 70s like series where he was a cop, and then he's by himself in this building. Lives by himself. And then Martin Short is he was involved in Broadway and musicals and pitching ideas and putting on shows. And once he got to a certain point, he became down on his luck, and now he owes money in his building, and he's trying to make ends meet, right? It's like day to day he doesn't make a lot of money. Selena Gomez plays a character who she lives in the building. You don't know much about her, but she's really into murder mystery kind of things, right? And all three of them kind of discover there's a murder in their building, and they all discover how into true crime they really are. So the Martin Short character has an idea that he wants to do a podcast, a true crime podcast, and then they all decide they're only going to focus on murders in the building. So that's why it's called Only Murders in the Building. But it's got comedy, and it has like twists and things that it puts in there, but the characters are more trying to figure out what's real and what isn't, right? It doesn't feel like, you know how some things they try and be clever just for the sake of being clever and twist things just to kind of deceive the audience. Things do take you by surprise, but it's not a part of the overall story or murder that it's kind of an aside so far. It's just we're learning different things about these interesting characters as they go on, as they try and solve this murder.
Well, it sounds like it has good twists.
Well, so far it's pretty good and really funny, and you know, all the main actors and even the supporting ones are pretty funny in it.
My favorite Martin Short anything, surprisingly, I don't know if you've heard of it, but he did he played the Mad Hatter in a version of Alice in Wonderland. I think it was like 1999.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean,
he seems perfect for that.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting remake of that movie.
Right.
And I really enjoyed, he put a lot of different songs in there besides like the normal songs you would hear. Mm-hmm. And I make that reference with my sister all the time. The song is called Auntie's Wooden Leg.
Okay.
And it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's original music from this particular
version of Alice in Wonderland. Yes, it's not in any of the other ones.
And it's just it's anytime, a musical.
Yeah. Anytime someone says Martin Short, that's the first thing that comes in my mind is him singing Auntie's Wooden Leg.
You said at the top of the show, substance abuse. Is that something that you have had personal contact with? What makes you think of that?
Well, it's been in my life, my entire life.
Right.
Growing up with my mother, who to this day still is addicted to substances.
Right.
Alcohol, drugs, all that stuff.
Right.
And being surrounded by it, obviously, I picked it up at a very, very young age. The first drug I ever did was mushrooms, actually, but I was unaware. So funny story about that. I was 11 years old. And my sister, she was like, here, eat these. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, no big deal. And she was like, awesome, you should go swimming to the pool. And I was like, I will be going to the pool by myself at 11 years old on mushrooms. And
was that did you have a bad trip?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Are you familiar with the movie Spaceballs? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I am.
Pizza the Hut.
Oh, yes, I remember Pizza the Hut.
Yes, he came up out of the water and told me he was going to eat my pee-pee. I didn't know what was happening to me, so I got pretty scared, and I ran back up to the apartment kind of screaming, and I walked in, and my mom was screaming at my sister, and she was just looking up at her, and my sister's telling my mom that her face is melting, and then I go into the bathroom, and my mom comes in and turns on like the hot water, like as hot as it can go, and she locks me in there. And I was like, you're going to sweat these drugs out of you. And I was like, I didn't want to be around water, obviously, because I didn't want Pizza the Hut to come in.
Right.
Fast forward to a couple of years, started smoking weed, drinking, kind of got in with the bad crowd.
So fast forward a couple of years, meaning like your pre-teens?
Yeah. And I was just trying everything I can get my hands on at this point. My sister had moved out of the apartment, so it was just my mother and I. I grew up with her until I was 18, and she just basically let me do whatever the fuck I wanted.
Right.
Which at the time I enjoyed.
But in retrospect.
Right. Being an adult now, I wish she would have done it differently.
Right.
But at the same time, every step that I've taken since then in my whole life has ended me up where I am now, which I'm more than happy to be where I am now. But I did struggle with addiction, mostly with cocaine until I was in my early 20s, heroin as well.
Right.
And any kind of pill, really any drug I can get my hand on, I wanted to do.
Okay.
As much as I could.
Right.
But I feel like it was the cocaine for me. Okay. Trying to get off of that while living with my mother, who always has some kind of opiate in the house. Mm-hmm. So I think in my mid-late 20s, I completely stopped doing all that stuff,
Right.
but I did pick up drinking quite a bit.
Okay. Do you think that was a replacement?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
you tried to replace the drugs with something, and it was alcohol.
I mean, really, the withdrawals I had from like the hard drugs, like the heroin and the cocaine withdrawals, were so terrible for me. I mean, contemplating suicide,
Right.
kind of terrible
Right.
withdrawals.
In your early 20s, right?
No, I had the withdrawals in my teens. And then I kind of just stuck with drinking for my early 20s.
Right.
But, having to go to high school and graduate high school while having drugs on my mind all the time was a real challenge.
Right.
But, I got through it. I graduated on time with my class, which a lot of my family was really surprised.
Right.
So
right.
that kind of addiction runs in my family.
It kind of gets passed down from generation
it definitely
to generation.
does. It definitely does.
Yeah.
My oldest sister, I don't know her well, but the few times that I have seen her, I can definitely tell that she's struggling with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
My middle sister, however, Joey, we talk every day. She's one of my best friends. She has impressed me with how much progress she's made. In fact, I think last week,
we're talking
addiction.
About
Yeah.
like, so fighting.
Yes.
The urge.
Last week was her fifth year sober.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm very proud of her. I've seen her go through some shit, but she is fucking killing it right now.
That's a thing. I think that when you're suffering from any kind of addiction, I think you can put yourself down to a point where the whole giving it up, you should celebrate those benchmarks, those every year. Was she a part of any program?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been in AA the whole time.
Okay.
I think that now she's able to become like a sponsor after 5 years of sobriety.
It's like you get some sort of chip or
yeah,
something.
she does get the chips.
Yeah.
I believe she still goes to meetings every week, actually. Okay. Just growing up with that, struggling with that my whole life. Mm-hmm. I don't struggle with it anymore.
Okay.
I do have an occasional drink now and then, but I actually don't do drugs anymore.
Right.
Whatsoever. I used to use medical marijuana because I have a brain injury and it stops me from having seizures.
Okay.
But I quit using that too. Something happened to me after I turned 30 where whenever I would smoke or do an edible or anything like that, I would have severe panic attacks.
Okay.
Don't know why. So I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And I've only had one seizure since then.
Okay.
So I just deal with it now. I just deal with the headaches. The epilepsy is a little harder. It's a little more on the mild side. It's very specific flashing that just throws me right into a seizure. But
so it's like even like video game stuff, like certain flashing patterns?
It's just one specific flashing pattern that I've seen that actually sends me. And it is the very abrupt black and white, really fast, nonstop flashing.
Okay.
So I can't really go to raves or anything.
Right. By the way, you're not missing much.
I know.
Lots of subsets and ecstasy and all sorts of things like that.
Which ecstasy is quite the drug.
Okay.
But yeah.
I never partake. I don't smoke weed. I tried it. Wasn't for me.
Right. Understandable.
Made me very hungry.
Yes.
That's about it.
Yes.
And very hyper. It made me, which is weird because everyone else was all mellow. Okay, so substance abuse. That's something because it's been a big part of your life as far as navigating.
Right.
That's why when you say substance, that's why.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, living with it,
Sounds
being
like your
part of it.
life.
I've lost friends to it.
Right.
I've almost lost myself to it on accident and on purpose.
Right.
I just feel too old now, and I have no want to do any of that anymore.
And that's another thing too. If you have your sister, the middle sister, as a support mechanism, you can support each other, and that that's something, right?
I have very supportive people in my life.
Very cool.
Very close people who, I mean, at this point, I could never live without. I mean, they don't define who I am as a person for sure. But they definitely support me and love me unconditionally. And to have that in my life is what makes me feel okay.
Yeah.
And what gets me up in the morning, puts me to bed at night. I mean, I'm so fucking lucky to have people like that in my life.
Yeah.
And I would never give that up for anything.
When you're struggling with any kind of mental sort of issue,
Right.
Be it addiction or substance abuse or panic and anxiety, having in place a good support system, just people, maybe one or two people, doesn't have to be family, just someone you really trust who understands what you're going through, right? And understands that if you need to talk to them, you just need them to listen,
Right.
or something, like that, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, even going through that, music has helped me through a lot of it as well.
Yeah.
Listening and writing my own music and making my own music, things like that. It's just has helped me so much.
So what do you play?
I play guitar.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah.
and do you just do little songs here and there, or is it just kind of like you
I
just play for fun?
whatever. It is definitely a hobby. I've been playing for a long time. I don't play as much as I used to, but it really calms me down for sure. I do like to cover some songs, but I mostly just play whatever happens.
Right. Kind of an artistic sort of.
Yeah, whatever happens.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I go about it. And a lot of the times I actually don't remember what the fuck I just played.
Right.
And I
Right.
haven't really ever recorded myself, maybe a few times, but I haven't kept anything, I don't think.
Yeah. That's something that I think takes some time before you feel comfortable in your own ability to do that, to record yourself.
Well, if I recorded myself, I wouldn't necessarily play it for other people,
right.
unless they were people like really fucking close to me.
Right. It would be either for you to assess later, assess and learn.
Right. I've never really played in front of people either.
Yeah. Okay, so there is something I wanted to talk to you about, substance abuse that relates to video games.
Oh, perfect.
And this is within, I think it's the last 2 years or so, International Classification of Diseases has listed gaming disorder. It's gaming disorder predominantly online and gaming disorder predominantly offline. And those codes are 6C51.0 for the online one and .1 for the non-online one. Now, what are your thoughts on something like that compared to substance abuse? I think they're two different things, right? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, to classify playing video games as a disease
Right.
is interesting. I have heard of it. I can understand, an addiction to games.
Right.
What my perception of that would be quite literally someone putting a chair in their living room that was a refrigerator, a toilet, everything, and then never moved from that spot.
Right.
Never. Because they didn't have to. I would consider that an addiction, sure.
Okay.
But other than that, I find that quite silly.
Yeah.
I think.
I do know of cases where someone is playing a game and getting really into it, and then their partner comes by and says, "Hey, we got to go do this thing," and then there's a response that's like a negative. Hey, I'm fucking doing this, or whatever, right? I don't know if it's necessarily addiction, but it's not right. I don't think it's a disease at that point. And is addiction to something that is a physical thing, like television, is that really a disease?
I wouldn't consider it a disease because,
Yeah.
I mean, personally, anyway, people say, "Oh, TV, video games, they'll rot your fucking brains out." But
Right.
I mean, I have way better hand-eye coordination than somebody who doesn't play video games. As far as television, I don't watch it that much, but physically, I would not consider being addicted to fucking Coke the same thing as being addicted to the TV.
Right.
Because
Right.
yes, over time, it will hurt you, sure.
Right.
However, cocaine will kill you. Watching TV will not kill you unless it literally fucking falls on you or something. I can't really compare the two.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's I understand it.
I understand where it can be a problem,
Right.
but I don't know if it's a disease. And there's also when you say substance abuse versus substance addiction,
Right.
I think those are also two different things.
Agreed. Yes.
Abuse, I think, is a step to addiction, maybe. I don't think it's the same level. What do you think?
No, I agree. I believe that abusing a drug is going to cause you to become addicted, which is obviously a lot harder to deal with.
Right.
But as far as actual substance abuse, I would in my mind, I would consider like a college kid, right? They're using drugs on the weekend to have a party. That would be substance abuse versus the lady that's sitting on Grant and Alvernon right now, smoking crack out of a pipe that she just bought from the Circle K right there, like begging people for money. Like that would be an addiction.
Anyways, like I said, it could be a problem, but I think it's varying levels. It's just identifying how best to help people with an addiction or substance abuse. I think also there's a sort of like impaired control sort of thing that occurs with drugs and alcohol that I wouldn't say happens with video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there is an impairment to the point where you can call it. There's a problem if you refuse to do anything else, but I think that may be a different psychological problem than something that seems to have more of a physical sort of component to it. And people say that, when you play games, there's a dopamine sort of
chemical reaction.
But it occurs with everyone in screens now.
And it's wild to me, especially when I see babies operating like iPads and laptops and things like that. Like, bitch, I can barely operate my iPhone.
Right.
It's so fascinating to me that I see these little tiny babies that can
figure it out,
do it completely on their own.
It's really interesting how the thought process is different now too, and how socially we interact a lot differently than we used to. It's a weird slippery slope, online media and things like that, and social media in general.
Internet is forever, my friends.
Yes. Well, there's that too, right?
Yes.
There's keeping a record. That's the other thing too with this online versus offline gaming kind of thing. I mean, isn't it just a gaming addiction, right?
Right.
What's the difference between an online gaming addiction and an offline gaming addiction? Do you think there's necessarily a difference?
I mean, no, I don't think there is, really, because gaming is gaming. Now, I know the difference between gaming online versus gaming offline. For example, the two games that are popping up into my mind would be playing Call of Duty with your friends online.
Right.
Everybody's on all different sides of the country, different sides of the world, whatever, versus playing Sims 4.
Right.
That's not an online game.
Right.
So, I mean, multiplayer versus single player.
Right. You mentioned there's Call of Duty, like that kind of thing where you have teams of people.
Right.
And there's a certain social interaction that occurs in those things, and you're interacting with your teammates.
Right.
But at the heart of it, it's still a game. And there's still, if you're addicted to the game, you're addicted to the game, not the people, or not being online necessarily, right? Is that what you think?
It could be both,
Right.
actually. Maybe you're addicted to talking to people,
right?
But you don't like to socially be around people physically.
I just think that's maybe more of a social replacement than it is.
Absolutely. Which can also be an addiction. I feel like it's both.
Okay.
I feel like it's both.
Yeah, and I was thinking World of Warcraft is another one of those games where there's a sort of an escapism that occurs with those. The one common thing I think about with substance abuse or an abuse of a thing like this is an escapism. So why do you do this thing? You don't want to deal with that situation. Video games can be that, and if you're playing an RPG and you're like trying to, people who role play other things.
Yes.
Like they'll role play whatever their character is as opposed to, and I don't think that's inherently bad, but what I'm saying is that can be a form of escapism that sort of relates to being addicted to something.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
Have you played any MMORPGs or Warcraft or anything like that?
I mean, not Warcraft or
Okay.
anything like that. I am an avid Skyrim player.
Okay.
I have played, the first person shooter games and things like this. So yeah, I have played Call of Duty. I have played, Apex and things like that. But I don't necessarily prefer them. I do more like, one player games offline
like with narrative and with
narrative, with a story mode and things like that. I specifically remember I had gotten Call of Duty World War II for my birthday one year.
Okay.
And I got it for the story mode of it. I did study a lot of the Holocaust and things like that in middle school and in high school.
Right.
So I just always found it fascinating, being one that loves blood and gore and bullshit like that. But, obviously there's a difference between story and reality. But
was it a good story?
it was a great story mode.
Okay.
For the World War II Call of Duty. It was a great story mode. I feel like it could have been longer.
Okay.
But they definitely they use those games mostly for the online playing. So I feel like,
so
I think the latest one actually didn't even have a story mode.
I always confuse all those war games. Wasn't there a big thing that one of the war games, and I don't know what it's called, but it was like a Cold War, coming like the 80s, kind of, it's during that period of time.
I'm sure that was some
Russians
Call of Duty.
and sort of, yeah.
Yes, actually.
And that was the one I think recently where is that Ubisoft that does?
Yes, I think so.
There were some complaints from Russians. There starts to be this sort of debate about history and what's accurate and what isn't, and how you're representing people. And I just want to say, it's a game. It's not real.
Right.
That doesn't excuse the rewriting of history, but still, it's just a game. It's telling a story.
It is just a game. I games like that, sure. There are other games that I feel like they do depict history well.
Right.
I mean, of course, they go off topic and create the narrative for the main character and things like that. But, other games like that I think are absolutely fascinating, especially the Assassin's Creed games.
Oh, okay.
Those ones
you
are
like
really
those?
cool. Yeah. I started with Black Flag.
Okay.
I thought that
The Pirates.
The Pirates.
Yeah.
The thing that got me to stop playing that game was those fucking pirate ships, dude. I could never get those to work, and then I think the copy I bought was jacked up because I always got stuck on this one fucking part and I could never get past it.
So you mean like controlling the ships?
Controlling the ships,
oh, okay.
yeah, in the ocean, and fighting other pirate ships.
Right.
It was too hard for me. I couldn't do it. And then I got, I think, what was the one? I don't know if it was the one after that, but it was the Odyssey.
Okay.
I think, because I was always into like Roman culture and things like that. That one was fascinating. Absolutely.
I think Evan still playing that, or has she moved on to Valhalla?
I think she was playing Valhalla now.
Okay. But I believe she was playing Odyssey.
Yeah.
I always confuse those because I gave up on Assassin's Creed.
Why would you do that?
It's a dumb reason, but now it's turned into the type of a game that I'm not really into. So now there's a lot of it's more of an open world kind of game, right? Whereas before it was more of a story kind of game. It was less of a open world game. And the problem I had with the very first one was when one of the main things you had to do was move through a crowd and push people gently aside to not alert people.
They had that in Black Flag,
for
too.
some reason, that hit me in such a way where it's like, this is dumb. I mean, it's not really stealth. For some reason, the way it was presented to me was like, this is a dumb game dynamic. I don't want to do this.
Understandable.
Walking on ice in games. I hate that.
I enjoy the noise.
Okay.
I love the sound of crunching, or in real life. Have you ever walked on ice in real life?
Yeah.
Have you ever fallen through?
No. No. Anything I've fallen through was when we were testing the ice to make sure it was okay for playing hockey on, but it was just it was really like less than a foot and a half, 2 feet of water, so it wasn't a big deal.
Oh yeah, you would have been.
It's
fine.
not like we're going out on a big lake or a river or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking more about the slippery, like when you walk and you slip. It just seems to be the thing where your character will just slide.
Yes.
And then slide past or slide off the edge.
Have you ever played
whatever.
Spyro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the goddamn worst, trying to play, what was it, hockey or something with those fucking tall ass motherfucking things. Trying to get the fucking hockey puck past that guy. We were slipping and sliding, and you can only go one speed
Right.
on that fucking ice. And I swear, like, frustrating.
So, some of those things where it's trying to simulate, the fact that you can make it anything you want. It's a game. So why make it annoying where, like if you switch directions, it's slow to get traction,
Right.
Yeah, I know it's ice.
For the
That's
challenge.
great.
They do it for the challenge.
We like to think that. Maybe they did it to annoy people. Who knows?
Well, I mean, if they have the choice, then they can do it.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Do you have any video game things specific to substance you want to bring up?
In my opinion, obviously, open world games have more substance than first person shooters.
Okay. By more substance, you mean more to be found?
More to be found, more to be played.
Okay.
I mean, there being a story mode.
So substance as in like quantity. There's a quantity
and
of,
then quality as well.
I would
For
fight
sure.
you. I would fight you on quality.
Why is that?
The reason I would fight you on quality for open world games is I don't think I've played one recently that's really hit the balance of unique quests, unique stories. It's like fetch quests are always the big thing, or whatever. What I think has more substance personally to me is something that has a story, that they're telling me a story, that I'm interacting with them in a complete story. And if there are side things to do along the way that may or may not build towards what you're doing, that's fine. But if there's too much to do in a world and too many things to focus on, I mean, the variety is okay, but you can't tell me that each one of those storylines is the best storyline that's been written.
No, absolutely not. But I think the quantity of it, because you don't, maybe you get overwhelmed with the amount of work that you need to do in like those big open world games.
Right.
But you just stick to one thing at a time. You find one quest that you really like.
Yeah.
And usually, specifically for Skyrim, there may be a quest where you just have to talk to one person and that's the whole fucking thing.
Right.
Or
Right.
you start a quest and then to finish that quest, you have to do 30 more quests.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do like the option of being able to start those, 30 quest long stories and then being like, cool, I actually need to take a break from this and then go do something else for a little while and then being able to come back to it when I feel ready to.
Yeah.
Rather than, the pressure of those first person shooters were obviously like, cool, this is the game.
Right.
This is the game. You need to kill all these people. There may be a little story. There may be a point. You need to kill all these people.
Yeah, the save points are really big in those,
Right.
whereas opposed to the quests are the save point.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So I
Skyrim.
think that games like that for Skyrim
Yeah.
has more substance than Call of Duty.
Okay. I agree with you on that. Yeah, and I think one that hits the mark pretty well was Horizon Zero Dawn. Taking down robotic dinosaurs with a bow and arrow. You had me with just that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But they handle their quests in the world. They feel they're all the same quest types and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason they add new machines and wrinkles in such a way that makes it feel like it's new.
Right.
So it doesn't feel like you're doing the same mission over and over again. There's some variation to it because of how the environment and how the other machines, react to you and such. So I'm looking forward to the new one, Forbidden West, which is coming out for the PlayStation 5. What I wanted to talk about as far as substance, haptic feedback. Do you know where I'm going here with haptic feedback?
No idea.
No?
Mm-mm.
You know what haptic feedback
Nope.
is?
Mm-mm.
In games, it's like a kinesthetic communication, like rumbles. Rumble packs are an example of that.
Okay.
With haptic feedback on triggers with the new PlayStation 5, that's what it's got. An example they give is like when you use a trigger to pull the string of a bow, it feels like you're pulling a string of the bow.
That's fascinating.
Like that kind of feedback. It's gone through its various phases, but a very basic one is just rumble packs, right? Rumble things or things that vibrate.
I remember when rumble packs, they came out on the Nintendo 64.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's when they like actually came out as being part of, a video game, but specifically playing Ocarina of Time and going fishing.
Right.
And then that whole fucking controller just shaking when you caught a fish.
Yeah.
Like that is... Yeah, it just really immersed you into the game more.
Yeah.
And now all the controllers have it.
There are some creative uses of that. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the haptic feedback with the triggers and things like that, and how that will evolve.
Right.
Because I think something, you know what, before we go into that, more basic versions of your haptic feedback, like just vibration and stuff, where even in the arcades, there was a motocross game that basically added feedback to the handlebars, even as far back as 1976.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very much in the black and white days of video games, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember there was a pinball machine called Earthshaker, which was a Bally Williams table. We pinball guys call them tables, so just put that in the back of your head. If I say a table, that's what I mean, a pinball table.
Okay.
But Earthshaker was one where it would rumble the whole table itself, and you would see the shifting going on of the actual playfield. But that was one of the first examples of like haptic sort of feedback.
So you're a pinball guy then?
I am definitely a pinball guy.
Have you been to Cobra?
Yes, I have been to Cobra.
You have been to Cobra?
I've also been...
Yeah, the one downtown, right? It's like near 4th Avenue?
Right.
I forget which one that's called.
It's D&D Pinball or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's just like a garage.
Yeah, it's a garage. But and the problem I have with that is I used to work at an arcade. And the guy that I worked for was a pinball fanatic. He absolutely loved pinball.
Pinball wizard, if you will.
Yeah, seriously. Like his arcade, the machine, was originally, it was a pinball arcade. And then turned into an arcade, right, that had all sorts of different stuff and video games and things. And then, it got more ticket redemption things. You kind of followed the whole path of the death of the arcade, right? Went from pinball to video games to ticket redemption stuff, and then that's it. Closed down with them all.
Have you been to Round 1?
No, I have not. I've been meaning to go. I hear there's a lot of weird.
So fucking surprised you haven't been to. It's very Japanese. Yeah. There's a lot of Japanese. There's shit in there that doesn't have any English on it.
Do they have any of those gashapon kind of things, like those little, you can collect the little figurine things?
Yes.
They do have gashapon.
The whole bottom floor alone is basically all like claw machines, but the Japanese claw machines, where it's not just like, you lower the claw and you grab it. You have to actually maneuver the claw to like push down, the stuffed animal or whatever it may be.
Right.
They have these giant claw machines where you can pick up this fucking huge fluffy thing.
Right.
And they're hard as shit. To get those. And then there's other machines where you have to like match up a light to one specific little purple light on the big round table.
Right.
And then it will drop, whatever.
These are all prize things, yeah.
Yeah, they are all prize. And then of course they have your, classic skee ball, and there's pinball, but
the more domestic
it's the really fascinating like Japanese like machines to me. They have I see you're familiar with Guitar Hero.
Yes. Yes.
They
have
have
taiko.
one.
They have the taiko
They
drums.
do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And it looks, I've never played it myself. It looks way too fucking intense for me. And then they also have bowling, which is fun.
Cool.
Who doesn't like a good bowling game?
Yeah.
And then they have karaoke, which probably still isn't open because, pandemic.
Right.
But
the arcade is open?
The arcade's open. Yeah.
Okay. I definitely do want to check it out if it's got a lot of that kind of
It's got a lot
stuff.
of really cool shit.
Yeah. Before we get into my question about where that technology and rumbles and things, I don't know if we're going to keep this.
What is it?
It's kind of dirty.
Go for it.
It's teledildonics.
It's just dildo vibrations.
Teledildonics was coined. Yeah.
Dildonics.
Teledildonics.
Just that word alone is fucking great.
Yeah.
Teledildonics. But is it specifically for like vibrators and dildos and shit?
It was first coined in 1975. So I think it might be an antiquated. Maybe just people just call it. Well, I mean, dildos
Is that what,
can be without
what's
vibration.
Short for
vibrators, right?
Dildos are? Is that why it's just called a dildo?
No, because dildos are just the thing. It's not. It's just the device.
You fucking dildo.
It's not vibrating, right?
Right.
And the teledildonics.
So that would just be a vibrator.
Would be a vibrator,
right?
Yeah,
Dildonics.
Teledildonics.
That's fucking hilarious.
When I was researching haptic feedback, they were giving some examples, and that was in there with vibrators.
That's fucking hilarious.
I guess you could simulate things, right? That would also be a big question about how, like sex robots and stuff. I don't necessarily want to go there, but I mean, there could be some feedback involved there. I think my aunt is going to be blushing on this too.
Oh,
Aunt Nora.
Aunt Nora. Hi, Nora.
Hello, Nora.
I hope you're doing well today.
Yes. So with things like haptic feedback, the reason I talked about that in the first place is I think as far as the next iteration of video games or controllers, that it would be interesting to have substances like when you touch something in a game, like you put your hands in sand,
right,
or some kind of or water, or some kind of substance, it would feel that way. Or maybe change temperature, but we're talking about more like it would feel like you're actually holding things, right?
I feel like that would be really fucking cool if it was like VR kind of shit.
As far as virtual reality stuff, some of it's really friggin' amazing.
I've never fucked with that.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I've seen stuff on the internet. One thing that I do want to try is that like it's some kind of music game. Like almost like a rhythm game, but you have like what look like lightsabers, and you have to like
Beat Saber.
Yeah, that looks cool as shit.
Yeah,
that looks so fun.
People
and then,
love Beat Saber.
Also the hilarity of I guess the VR chat rooms where you can like make yourself look like whatever, like any kind of cartoon, and then you just talk to random people,
right?
Like
just
as that cartoon and as that character, And I just think that is so funny, and I would love to try that one day.
Yeah.
But if they could take things like that and turn it into something that's it's so reality, whereas if you can touch something and it feels like whatever you're touching in the game, you feel it, like
right. Or
the
put your
idea of
hand
that
in
is
substance.
terrifying.
Do you think it is?
I think it's absolutely terrifying.
Like
because what could that even lead to?
Like if you're running on the beach, maybe, right?
Yeah,
and
but
it feels like you're running on a surface that is the surface. Like when you're running on snow, that substance is different than anything else, right? The sound is what makes it. But the next thing I think is feeling that somehow,
right?
And yeah, that could be scary, right? And maybe that's not where we should go with games, is having this full immersion, like feeling the things or feeling the same things, because then you're starting to get into weird territory where it's like feeling pain.
Right. I was actually just about to talk about that.
Yeah.
Imagine a horror game.
Right.
Where you're sleeping in a bed in your VR game, and then somebody reaches up and cuts your fucking legs off or something.
Right.
I would actually be into that. That sounds fun because you know that's not real, but if you can feel it and you see it, like your brain's going to trick you. In the future, maybe not in our lifetime, I can definitely see things like that being invented.
So as far as games going to the next sort of iteration, do you think it's VR or do you think it's something else?
I think they're still going to make, classic games, console
Right.
games and things like that. It's never going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is just going to become better and better and better until the point where they do get to that VR where you can feel and touch and smell all these substances in the game and basically be there without being there.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
It sounds very possible
Yeah.
in the near future, actually, but
I also think that it's dangerous territory.
absolutely.
Right.
It's not necessary. They shouldn't do it, but they're going to.
Right. Right. Maybe it does have some sort of function, like robots, right? If you can feel that pressure, like you need to, pick up something with a certain amount of pressure, that could be something that, amputees could feel things again.
Yeah,
right?
I was just thinking that actually too. Like somebody, like a quadriplegic, like
Right.
if it's them going into VR and then being able to feel like they have hands and,
Right.
arms and legs
Right.
again,
I mean,
to be
even-
able to walk around. And
Yeah, even the develop of like prosthetic things that have that kind of thing would be another application of haptic sort of feedback, I would be guessing. So anyway, well, on that note, your final views or final words
my
on the word
final
substance.
views on substance.
Yeah.
Be substantial.
Yeah,
Make a difference for yourself.
Right.
That's what's most important.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to do anything for anybody else. If something makes you happy, don't just half-ass it. Just do it, man.
just do it. Living your life to contain experiences that to be substantial in that way. Trying new stuff, right? Just do that. And then also one quick aside, if you are struggling with substance abuse, you should seek help.
There's endless resources out there for you, but you're not going to seek help unless you want to seek help.
Right. So if it's, that's exactly true. And you've got to be focused if you're going to be successful on it. On that note, substances. We talked about them. We had fun. Did we have fun?
We had a great time. 10 out of 10.
Excellent. Do I need to say that word again?
I'll say it. Dildonics.
Okay.
Google
it's
it.
Teledildonics.
You
but that's
can
okay.
Google it.
Teledildonics. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the Too Vague Podcast. My name is Ben.
I'm Sammy. Bye.
You can say, yeah, bye. That's
Bye.
fine. Bye.
Cool.